The Indian Ocean, vast and mysterious, stretches endlessly towards the horizon, its surface shimmering under the tropical sun. For centuries it has been a source of life, a highway for trade, and a provider for millions who live along its shores. Often a cradle of life, the ocean's gentle tides nurture vibrant coastal communities. In Madagascar, fishermen cast their nets at dawn, children play along the beaches, and bustling markets thrive with the day's catch. The rhythm of daily life is intimately tied to the sea's moods. Yet beneath this calm, the Indian Ocean holds a hidden power. When conditions align, it can unleash forces of unimaginable strength, transforming from a nurturing presence into a harbinger of destruction. Storm clouds gather, and the waves begin to churn with a restless energy. On February 10, 2026, Cyclone Gezani, a colossal vortex of wind and water, set its sights on Madagascar's eastern coast. Born from the ocean's warm embrace, Gezani grew rapidly, its spiral arms stretching hundreds of kilometers as it drew strength from the heated waters below. Meteorologists tracked its path for days, their warnings growing more urgent as the storm fed on the ocean's heat. In weather centers across the region, experts watched satellite images with mounting concern, knowing that every hour brought Gezani closer to land. As Gezani neared, Toamasina's sky darkened, the air thick with tension, and the sea breeze turned into violent gusts. Residents hurried to secure their homes, boarding up windows and gathering loved ones, while the city braced for the unknown. The cyclone's outer bands lashed the coast, flooding streets and signaling the chaos to come. Torrential rain hammered rooftops, and the first waves began to breach the shoreline, swallowing roads and sweeping debris inland. Landfall was a terrifying escalation. Winds roared like freight trains, waves crashed over seawalls, and the city was plunged into a maelstrom. The sound of shattering glass and twisting metal filled the air as nature's fury made itself known. For Toamasina's residents, the world outside became a blur of wind, rain, and destruction. Streets emptied as families huddled indoors, listening to the relentless assault and hoping their walls would hold. Every gust and sheet of rain battered the city's resilience. Palm trees bent nearly double, and the city's familiar skyline was obscured by sheets of water and flying debris. The storm's darkness was broken only by the crash of trees and the groan of straining buildings. Each thunderous impact echoed the struggle between human endurance and the raw power of nature. In those first hours, land, sea, and sky merged into a single, violent spectacle. The boundaries between earth and ocean vanished, replaced by swirling chaos that engulfed everything in its path. Madagascar, a land of fragile beauty, was now locked in a desperate struggle against the ocean's fury. As dawn approached, the true scale of the devastation remained hidden, but the people of Toamasina knew that their world had been changed forever by the arrival of Gezani. To truly grasp the devastation Gezani brought, we must first understand the sheer magnitude of this storm, its scale, its power, and the relentless force it unleashed upon Madagascar. Gezani was classified as a Category 3 cyclone, a designation reserved for only the most formidable storms. These are not just weather events. They are engines of destruction, capable of reshaping entire landscapes in a matter of hours. When Gezani made landfall, its winds howled at 115 miles per hour, or 185 kilometers per hour. That's strong enough to snap palm trees like twigs, tear roofs from sturdy homes, and send entire neighborhoods into chaos. At its peak, gusts soared to a staggering 168 miles per hour, 270 kilometers per hour, turning everyday objects into dangerous projectiles, shattering windows, and filling the air with flying debris. The city of Toamasina, once a vibrant hub along the coast, was left battered and broken. Streets that once bustled with life were now littered with debris, and the city's infrastructure lay in ruins. Power lines were torn down and tangled across the city, plunging entire neighborhoods into darkness. For many, the night seemed endless, as the city was cut off from the outside world. Communication networks collapsed at the very moment help was needed most. Emergency workers struggled to coordinate, and families were left isolated, unable to reach loved ones or call for aid. The energy Gezani released was almost unimaginable, equivalent to thousands of atomic bombs detonating in rapid succession, and all of it was unleashed on a densely populated region, amplifying the disaster. The aftermath was a brutal reminder of humanity's vulnerability in the face of nature's fury. Families wandered through flooded streets, searching for shelter and safety amid the devastation. But Gezani was more than just a storm. It was a meteorological anomaly, a stark warning sign of a changing climate, with weather patterns growing more unpredictable and extreme. The people of Madagascar were not simply enduring a storm, they were surviving a cataclysm. In makeshift shelters, families huddled together, waiting for help and hoping for relief. Gezani's collision with Toamasina was not just a moment of destruction, it was a tragedy that would reshape the city and its people for years to come, leaving scars both visible and unseen. The true measure of Cyclone Gezani is its human cost. Beyond the statistics and satellite images, it is the stories of ordinary people, families, children, elders, whose lives were forever changed in a single night of terror. The cyclone's fury did not discriminate, sweeping through villages and cities alike, leaving behind a trail of heartbreak and devastation. In the days after landfall, rescue teams uncovered the scale of tragedy. At least 20 lives lost, each one a family shattered. For every name on the list there's a story of love, dreams, and futures cut short. The grief was palpable, echoing through communities as neighbors gathered to mourn and support one another. 15 more were missing, leaving families in agonizing uncertainty. Each hour without news felt like an eternity, as loved ones clung to hope and searched desperately for any sign of those unaccounted for. The pain of not knowing was a wound that refused to heal. Thousands were left homeless, forced to seek refuge in overcrowded shelters with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Entire neighborhoods were reduced to rubble, and families huddled together, uncertain of what the next day would bring. The sense of loss was overwhelming, as people realized that everything they had built was gone in an instant. Survivors faced immense hardship, having lost homes, livelihoods, and their sense of security. Many tried to salvage what little remained from the wreckage, clinging to memories and possessions that survived the storm. The road to recovery seemed impossibly long. The psychological trauma would linger long after the winds died down. Children struggled to sleep, haunted by memories of the storm, while adults grappled with anxiety and despair. The emotional scars, invisible yet profound, would take years to heal. Toamasina, a city the size of Pittsburgh, was brought to its knees. Streets that once bustled with life were now silent, submerged under floodwaters and debris. The city's spirit was tested as residents faced the daunting task of rebuilding from the ground up. Access to clean water, food, and medical care became critical challenges. Relief workers raced against time to deliver aid, but the needs were immense. Every day was a struggle for survival, as families waited in long lines for basic necessities. The storm stripped away the basic necessities of survival, creating a humanitarian crisis. With infrastructure destroyed, communities relied on the compassion of strangers and the determination of aid workers to endure the days and weeks that followed. The numbers tell only part of the story. The real impact is found in the lives upended. Each face in the crowd carries a story of loss, resilience, and the will to keep going despite unimaginable hardship. Gezani's legacy is one of loss, displacement, and a desperate struggle for survival. Families walked for miles in search of safety, wading through flooded streets and carrying what little they could. The journey was perilous, but hope kept them moving forward. For Madagascar, the storm's aftermath was a test of resilience and hope. Communities came together, supporting one another, and beginning the long process of rebuilding. In the face of tragedy, the human spirit endured, determined to rise again. Gezani was not an isolated event, but the climax of a relentless cyclone season. Madagascar had already been battered by previous storms, leaving the ground saturated and communities weary. Just 10 days earlier, Cyclone Phaitia had claimed 14 lives and displaced over 31,000 people. Recovery from Phaitia had barely begun when Gezani struck, overwhelming already stretched resources. Emergency shelters were full, and weakened infrastructure crumbled under Gezani's assault. This relentless sequence of storms left Madagascar in a devastating cycle of destruction and recovery. For island nations like Madagascar, the threat from the sea is a recurring danger demanding constant vigilance. The morning after Gezani revealed a city transformed by destruction. Toamasina's buildings were battered, roofs torn away, walls collapsed, windows shattered, streets were littered with twisted metal and personal belongings, evidence of lives upended. Majestic trees lay uprooted, blocking roads and isolating neighborhoods. The city's map was redrawn by debris and floodwaters, turning simple journeys into dangerous expeditions. Flooding submerged low-lying areas, roads vanished beneath murky water. The risk of waterborne diseases like cholera and typhoid loomed, compounding the crisis. The scars were not just physical, but a web of destruction and health risks. Toamasina faced logistical nightmares that would take months if not years to address. The city's recovery would be a long and uncertain road. For many in Toamasina, Gezani revived memories of past cyclones. The island's history is marked by storms, but Gezani's strength was exceptional. It drew comparisons to the devastating cyclone of 1994, long remembered as the region's worst. Gezani rivaled, and perhaps surpassed that legacy, underscoring the region's vulnerability. More recently, Cyclone Eva in 2017 had caused significant damage, but Gezani was in a different league. These comparisons highlight the rarity and magnitude of Gezani's impact. While cyclones are a known threat, a storm of this caliber striking a major city is rare. The echoes of past storms serve as a stark reminder. Nature's fury can return, stronger than before. Gezani set a new benchmark for disaster in Madagascar's collective memory. Gezani's tragedy is rooted in Madagascar's geography and climate. The island lies in the path of southern Indian Ocean storms, making cyclones a predictable recurring threat. From November to April, conditions are perfect for cyclones to form and strike. Madagascar's long eastern coastline intercepts many of these storms, bringing annual risk and anxiety. The frequency of cyclones shapes both the landscape and the resilience of the Malagasy people. They have learned to prepare, but the threat is ever present. Now, as global temperatures rise, cyclones are becoming more intense. Scientists warn that climate change could mean fewer, but far more powerful storms. Gezani may be a glimpse of a new, more dangerous era for Madagascar. Amid devastation, another story emerges: the resilience of Madagascar's people. In Toamasina, neighbors helped each other search for survivors and shared what little they had. Community leaders organized shelters and distributed aid, often with scarce resources. This instinctive response is rooted in Fihavanana, a deep sense of solidarity and mutual respect. Fihavanana becomes a lifeline in crisis, binding the community together. The Malagasy have endured hardship for generations, learning to be resourceful and self-reliant. While international aid arrives, the first and most vital response comes from within. The spirit of the Malagasy nation is a quiet but formidable force. In the darkest times, hope and human connection endure. As rebuilding begins, Gezani leaves crucial lessons for the future. Disaster preparedness and climate adaptation are now urgent priorities. Early warning systems must reach even the most remote communities. Resilient infrastructure, stronger homes, schools, and hospitals is essential. Nature-based solutions like planting mangroves can help protect coastlines. The increasing intensity of storms is a global issue requiring a global response. For Madagascar, the path forward combines international support with local resilience. The Malagasy spirit is unbreakable, but it must be matched by action to withstand the storms ahead.